She was just trying to survive, working late nights, raising her daughter alone, invisible to the world. But someone was watching, someone dangerous, someone powerful. And the night she forgot her laptop at the office, everything changed. Emi Nakamura is a single mother barely holding her life together. Long hours as a junior accountant, a 6-year-old daughter waiting at home. Every night she walks through the dark streets of Osaka alone, exhausted, struggling. But she never complains. She can't afford to. What she doesn't know? For 3 months, the most feared Yakuza boss in the city has been watching her every move. Ren Takahashi, cold, ruthless, untouchable, commands an empire built on shadows and blood. But when he sees Emi walking through the darkness with quiet dignity, something inside him shifts. She reminds him of everything he's lost, everything he can never have. Then comes the night that changes everything. Emi forgets her laptop at the office. Rushing back late at night, desperate to get home to her daughter, she doesn't notice the danger closing in. 3 drunk men corner her in a deserted street. No one around. No escape. But someone is there. A black Mercedes pulls up. A voice cuts through the darkness like a blade. "Remove your hands, now!" Ren Takahashi steps from the shadows, not as a stranger, but as her protector. He knows her name. He knows about her daughter. He's been watching, waiting, and now he's revealed himself for one reason. To keep her safe, she should run. She should forget this mysterious man who exists in a world of violence and power. But when he hands her a black business card with only a phone number, she can't throw it away. Soon, expensive shoes arrive at her office because he noticed her left foot hurt from walking too much. Theater tickets for her daughter appear because he saw the poster on her desk. Small acts of kindness from someone who shouldn't care. But in the Yakuza world, caring is dangerous. And when Emi receives a threatening phone call, "Your daughter is very cute in her yellow dress," she realizes loving Ren Takahashi might cost her everything. Can a single mother struggling to survive and a mafia boss drowning in darkness find light in each other? Or will his world destroy everything she's fought to protect? This is the story of a forgotten laptop and the man who delivered far more than she ever expected. She forgot her laptop at office. That night, the mafia boss delivered it himself. The fluorescent lights of Matsumoto & Associates flickered as Emi Nakamura saved the final spreadsheet of the evening. Her fingers ached from typing, and the digital clock in the corner of her screen glowed a harsh 9:47 p.m. Again. She rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the photo taped to her cubicle wall. A smiling little girl with pigtails, her daughter Hana, age 6, gap-toothed and radiant. Guilt twisted in Emi's stomach. Mrs. Yoshida, their elderly neighbor, had picked Hana up from school again, the 3rd time this week. "You work too hard, Nakamura-san," came a voice from across the office. Tanaka-san from accounting, gathering his belongings, gave her a sympathetic smile. "Go home to that beautiful daughter of yours." Emi returned the smile weakly. "Just finishing up. You have a good evening." As Tanaka-san's footsteps faded down the hallway, silence enveloped the office floor. 23 floors above the glittering streets of Osaka, Emi felt suspended between 2 worlds, the professional life she struggled to maintain and the personal life she was always racing back to, never quite fast enough. She thought of the past 3 years since Hana's father had left, since the divorce papers had been signed with shaking hands in a courthouse that smelled of old wood and broken promises. The single mother's path was lonely, carved with sacrifice and endless compromise. Her salary as a junior accountant barely covered rent for their modest apartment in Tennoji Ward, Hana's school supplies, and the necessities that seemed to multiply endlessly. There were no luxuries, no safety net, just her and Hana navigating each day with determination wrapped in exhaustion. Emi gathered her purse and coat, her body moving through the familiar motions of departure. She locked her desk drawer, turned off her monitor, and pushed in her chair with practiced precision. The office building seemed to breathe differently at night, quieter, somehow more honest, stripped of daytime pretenses. The elevator descended smoothly, and she stepped out into the lobby where the night security guard, old Sato-san, nodded at her. "Late again, Nakamura-san. You take care now." "Thank you, Saito-san. Good night." The autumn air hit her face as she emerged onto the street, crisp and carrying the scent of street food from distant vendors. Osaka at night was a symphony of neon and shadow, where respectable businesses closed their doors and other establishments came alive. Emmy walked quickly, heels clicking against pavement, heading toward the train station 3 blocks away. She didn't notice the black Mercedes parked across the street, or the man inside watching her through tinted windows. Ren Takahashi had made a career of noticing things others missed. At 35, he commanded one of the most powerful Yakuza families in the Kansai region, the Takahashi Gumi, with the same calculated precision his father had before his death 5 years ago. But where his father had ruled through fear and violence, Ren preferred strategy and control. Violence was a tool, not a philosophy. Tonight, however, business was not on his mind. For 3 months he had been coming to this street, parking in this spot, watching the woman from the 20th floor emerge from her office building late at night. It had started accidentally, a meeting at a nearby restaurant, a glance out the window, and there she was, hurrying through the darkness with a determined stride that spoke of purpose and exhaustion in equal measure. He'd had his lieutenant, Koji, make discreet inquiries. Emi Nakamura, age 28, junior accountant, single mother. No criminal record, no connections to their world. Just an ordinary woman living an ordinary, difficult life. Ren told himself he was merely curious, that his interest was purely observational, a brief fascination with someone so completely removed from his dark world of territories and tributes, of loyalty bought with blood and maintained through respect, tinged with fear. But curiosity didn't explain why he'd begun timing his evenings to catch these glimpses of her, why he'd noticed she favored her left foot slightly when she walked. Old shoes, probably. Why it bothered him that she worked so late, that shadows lived beneath her eyes, that she carried herself with a dignity that seemed both fragile and unbreakable. She doesn't belong in this darkness, he thought, watching her disappear toward the train station, but she walks through it every night anyway. "Boss, the meeting with the Yamada Kai representatives is in 30 minutes. Koji's voice came from the driver's seat, patient and professional. Ren nodded, pulling his gaze away from the now empty sidewalk. "Let's go." As the Mercedes pulled away from the curb, Ren forced his thoughts back to business. The Yamada Kai wanted to discuss territorial boundaries in the port district, a delicate negotiation that required his full attention. There was no room for distraction, certainly not for a woman he'd never even spoken to. Yet as they drove through Osaka's illuminated streets toward the private room in a discreet izakaya where business was conducted away from prying eyes, Ren's mind kept returning to the question that had plagued him for weeks. What would it take to ease the burden from those tired shoulders? To see her smile without the weight of the world pressing down? Questions a Yakuza boss had no business asking. Questions he couldn't seem to stop asking anyway. Nem collapsed onto her small sofa at 11:15 p.m., too tired even to change out of her work clothes. Hana was asleep in the bedroom they shared, her breathing soft and even. Mrs. Yoshida had left a note on the kitchen counter. Hana-chan ate dinner and finished her homework. Such a good girl. Don't worry, Emi-chan, don't worry. If only it were that simple. Emi's phone buzzed, an email from her supervisor about the quarterly reports due next week. More late nights ahead. She closed her eyes, feeling tears of frustration prick at the corners. This wasn't the life she'd imagined when she'd married at 22, young and full of hope. This wasn't what she wanted for Hana, a mother who was always tired, always stressed, always just barely holding everything together. But what choice did she have? She'd learned early that life didn't offer second chances to women like her. You worked, you survived, you found small moments of joy where you could, and you protected your child above all else. Emmy dragged herself off the sofa and checked on Hannah, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's peaceful face. "I'm doing this for you," she thought. "All of it is for you. Tomorrow would be another long day." But tonight, for a few hours, she could rest. She never imagined that tomorrow, everything would change. Act 2, The Intersection of Worlds. Friday morning arrived with rain, the kind of persistent drizzle that Tokyo residents accepted as part of autumn's melancholy beauty. Emmy rushed through her morning routine with practiced efficiency. Wake Hannah, prepare breakfast, ensure homework was packed, walk to school, then sprint to catch the 7:45 train. The office was already buzzing when she arrived, and the day consumed her immediately. Budget reports, client calls, her supervisor's endless revisions to presentations that seemed perfect already. Lunch was a convenience store sandwich, eaten at her desk. Afternoon bled into evening, and before she knew it, the office was emptying again. "Nakamura-san, don't stay too late," her colleague Kimura-san called out, waving goodbye. "It's Friday night. Even you deserve some rest." Emmy waved back with false brightness. "Just wrapping up. Have a good weekend." By 9:30 p.m., she was finally done. She gathered her belongings with relief, already mentally planning tomorrow. Grocery shopping, laundry, Hannah's soccer practice at the community center. Single motherhood was a marathon where the finish line kept moving. The train ride home was packed despite the late hour, Friday night revelers heading to entertainment districts. Emmy found a seat and closed her eyes, letting the rhythmic motion lull her into a state of semi-consciousness. She was halfway home when the realization hit her like ice water. Her laptop. She'd left it on her desk. The laptop containing the quarterly reports she needed to finish over the weekend, the files she'd spent all week compiling. Her heart hammered as she mentally retraced her steps. Yes, she'd definitely left it there, still plugged in beside her monitor. Emmy checked her watch. 10:15 p.m. The building would be locked, accessible only with her security card, but Saito-san would still be at the front desk until midnight. She could go back, retrieve it, catch the last train home. The alternative was going back tomorrow morning with Hannah in tow, wasting precious weekend hours. The decision made itself. She exited at the next station and caught a train heading back toward the office, frustration warring with resignation. Stupid, 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 she berated herself. How could she be so careless? The office building loomed dark and imposing when she arrived at 11 p.m., most windows black, only scattered lights indicating night shifts and janitorial staff. Saito-san looked surprised to see her. "Nakamura-san, forget something." "My laptop. I'm so sorry to bother you so late." "No bother at all. You know the way." The elevator ride to the 20th floor felt longer at night, the silence more pronounced. The office floor was dark except for emergency lighting, casting everything in shades of gray and shadow. Emmy's footsteps echoed as she made her way to her cubicle, grabbed her laptop, and tucked it securely in her bag. Relief flooded through her. Crisis averted. She was heading back toward the elevator when her phone rang. Mrs. Yoshida. "Emmy-chan, I hope I'm not calling too late." The elderly woman's voice was apologetic. "But Hana-chan woke up asking for you. She had a bad dream. I told her you'd be home soon." Guilt pierced through Emmy's chest. "I'm on my way right now, Yoshida-san. Please tell her Mama will be there in 30 minutes. "Don't rush, dear. She's fine now, but she misses you." Emmy ended the call with tears stinging her eyes. Even when she did everything right, it wasn't enough. Hana needed her, and she was here, in an empty office building, cleaning up her own mistakes. The train station was nearly deserted when she emerged from the building, the last train departing in 15 minutes. She started walking quickly, then running, her laptop bag bouncing against her hip, the rain that had stopped earlier beginning again in light mist. She was 2 blocks from the station when she realized someone was following her. At first, it was just a feeling, the prickling awareness of being watched. Then she heard the footsteps matching her pace, saw the shadow growing closer from the corner of her eye. Her heart began to race for different reasons now. Don't panic. Keep walking. The station is close. "Hey, lady!" a male voice called out, slurred with alcohol. "Where you going so fast?" Emmy walked faster, not responding. The station lights were visible ahead, salvation just a few hundred meters away. "I'm talking to you!" The voice was closer now, angry. A hand grabbed her shoulder, spinning her around. 3 men, all reeking of alcohol and bad intentions, surrounded her. The one who'd grabbed her was middle-aged, tie loose around his neck, salaryman gone wrong after too many drinks. His friends flanked him, grinning with the cruelty of pack animals. "Let go of me," Emmy said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the terror flooding through her. "Don't be unfriendly. We just want to talk. Pretty woman like you, all alone at night." His hand tightened on her shoulder. "I said let go." Emmy tried to pull away, but another hand grabbed her other arm. Later, she would remember the next moments in fragments. The sound of a car door opening, footsteps approaching fast, a voice cutting through the night air with the sharpness of a blade. "Remove your hands. Now." The voice was cold, controlled, and carried an authority that made the drunk salaryman freeze. Emmy looked up to see a man stepping out of the shadows, flanked by 2 others in dark suits. He was tall, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit despite the late hour, his face angular and handsome, in a way that seemed carved rather than born. But it was his eyes that captured her attention. Dark, intense, and currently fixed on the men holding her with an expression that promised consequences. "Who the hell are you?" the drunk salaryman blustered, though his grip on Emmy loosened. The tall man didn't answer. He simply looked at one of his companions and nodded slightly. The younger man stepped forward, and suddenly the drunk salaryman was on the ground, his arm twisted behind his back by someone who clearly knew exactly how to apply pressure without breaking bones. "Yet, she is under my protection," the tall man said quietly. "You've made a grave mistake tonight." The other 2 men backed away, hands raised, suddenly sober with fear. "We didn't know. We're sorry. We'll go." "Leave. Now. And be grateful I'm in a merciful mood." They ran, leaving their friend, who was released with a shove, and scrambled after them, not looking back. Silence fell over the street. Emmy stood frozen, laptop bag clutched to her chest, trying to process what had just happened. The tall man turned to her, and his expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Are you hurt?" His voice, directed at her, lost its edge, becoming almost gentle. I'm fine, thank you." Emmy's voice shook despite her attempt at composure. "You didn't have to." "I did." He studied her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're Emmy Nakamura." It wasn't a question. Somehow, this stranger knew her name, and the realization sent a different kind of chill down her spine. "How do you know who I am?" The man glanced at his companions, then back at her. For a moment, something almost like uncertainty crossed his face, an expression that seemed foreign to his features. "You forgot your laptop," he said instead of answering, gesturing to the bag in her arms. "You work too late, Nakamura-san. These streets aren't safe at this hour." "I know that," Emmy said, finding her voice strengthening. "But I had no choice. I need this for work, and my daughter is waiting for me at home." At the mention of her daughter, something shifted in the man's expression. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Then let me ensure you get home safely. My driver will take you." He gestured to the black Mercedes parked at the curb, the same car that Emmy, in her panic and fear, hadn't noticed. "I don't even know who you are," Emmy protested, though she was acutely aware that she'd just been rescued by this man and his clearly capable associates. "I can't just—" "My name is Ren Takahashi." He said it simply, as if expecting her to recognize it. She didn't. The name meant nothing to her, and her blank expression seemed to surprise him. "You don't know who I am," he said, and something almost like relief flickered in his eyes. "Should I?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "No, perhaps it's better that you don't." He gestured again to the car. "Please, Nakamura-san, it's late. Your daughter is waiting, and I would sleep better knowing you arrived home safely." There was something in his tone, not quite pleading but close enough, that made Emmy's resistance crumble. She was exhausted, shaken, and the thought of waiting for the train, then the walk from the station to her apartment in the dark, filled her with dread she couldn't quite suppress. "All right," she heard herself say. "Thank you, Takahashi-san." The interior of the Mercedes was more luxurious than anything Emmy had ever experienced. Leather seats, climate control, a silence so complete it felt like being wrapped in cotton wool. Ren sat beside her while his companion, Koji, he'd introduced him as, drove. The third man had disappeared, presumably to handle other business. "Where do you live?" Ren asked, his voice quiet in the enclosed space. Emmy gave him her address in Tennoji Ward, watching his face carefully for any reaction. If he thought anything of her modest neighborhood, he didn't show it. They rode in silence for several minutes, the city lights sliding past the windows in streaks of color. Emmy was hyper-aware of the man beside her. His presence seemed to fill the car, commanding attention without effort. There was danger here, she sensed, but also an unexpected safety, a contradiction she couldn't quite reconcile. "You've been watching me," she said suddenly, the realization crystallizing. "Tonight wasn't coincidence. You knew I'd be there." Ren didn't deny it. "I have." "Why?" He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his words were carefully chosen. "Because you intrigued me. A woman who works late every night, who walks alone through darkness with her head held high despite exhaustion, written in every step. Because you reminded me that there are people in this city who fight every day for ordinary happiness, and somehow that seemed more honorable than anything in my world." Emmy turned to look at him fully, studying his profile in the passing streetlights. "What world is that?" "One you should stay far away from," he said, meeting her eyes. "Which is why, after tonight, you likely won't see me again. I'll arrange for additional security near your office building. You'll never know they're there, but they'll ensure incidents like tonight don't repeat." "I don't understand," Emmy said, frustration creeping into her voice. "You've been watching me. You rescue me from those men. You know my name, where I work, but you won't tell me why or who you really are?" "It's better this way." "For whom?" "For you and for your daughter." The mention of Hana made Emmy's protective instincts flare. "Leave my daughter out of whatever this is." "That is precisely my intention," Ren said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Hana-chan is 6 years old, attends Minami Elementary, enjoys soccer and drawing. Her favorite color is yellow, like sunflowers. She thinks her mother is the strongest person in the world, and she's right." Emmy's breath caught. The level of detail was both touching and terrifying. "You investigated us. I ensured I knew how to keep you safe. We don't need your protection." "Tonight suggests otherwise." The car pulled up outside Emmy's apartment building, a modest structure that had seen better decades, with laundry hanging from balconies and bicycles chained in the entrance area. Ren looked at it for a long moment, then back at her. "You're right," he said quietly. "You don't need me. You've survived and built a life for yourself and your daughter through your own strength and determination. But sometimes, Nakamura-san, accepting help isn't weakness. It's wisdom." Emmy's hand was on the door handle, but she paused. "Who are you really, Takahashi-san?" "Someone who exists in shadows," he said. "Someone who, for a brief moment, stepped into light and saw something beautiful. Someone who is about to step back into darkness so that light remains untouched." It sounded like goodbye. Emmy found that the thought bothered her more than it should, given that she'd met this man less than an hour ago. "Thank you," she said finally, "for tonight, for..." She gestured helplessly, unable to find words for the strange, intense connection that seemed to have formed between them in the space of a car ride. "You're welcome." Ren reached into his jacket and produced a business card. Simple, black, with only a phone number embossed in silver. "If you ever need help, any kind of help, call this number." Emmy took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. Even that small contact sent an electric awareness through her. "I hope I never need to," she said honestly. "So do I." He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. "Go to your daughter, Emmy-san, and tomorrow, when you work late, know that someone is ensuring you're safe, even if you never see them." Emmy stepped out of the car, clutching her laptop bag and the mysterious business card. She turned back once to see Ren watching her through the window, his expression unreadable. Then the Mercedes pulled away, disappearing into the night. Mrs. Yoshida was waiting in her apartment with Hana asleep on the couch. "Oh, Emmy-chan, you're home. And is that a Mercedes that dropped you off?" The elderly woman's eyes were wide with curiosity. "It's a long story, Yoshida-san," Emmy said tiredly. "Thank you for staying with Hana." After Mrs. Yoshida left, Emmy carried her daughter to bed, tucking her in and watching her sleep for a long moment. Hana's peaceful face was a reminder of everything that mattered, everything she'd built and protected. Later, lying in bed, unable to sleep, Emmy turned the black business card over in her hands. She should throw it away, should forget tonight ever happened, should return to her normal life of work and motherhood and the comfortable predictability of struggle. But she didn't throw it away. Instead, she tucked it into her wallet between a photo of Hana and her train pass and wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake or received an unexpected gift. The following week passed in strange normalcy. Emmy worked her usual long hours, but she noticed small changes. The walk from the office building to the train station felt different, safer, though she couldn't pinpoint why. Once she thought she saw a man in a dark suit watching from across the street, but when she looked again, he was gone. Invisible protection. Just as Ren had promised. She should have been unnerved. Instead, she felt oddly grateful. Friday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor to her office. The receptionist called, voice filled with nervous excitement. "Nakamura-san, there's a delivery for you at the front desk. They insist on hand delivery only." Emmy made her way to reception, curious and slightly anxious. A young man in an expensive suit stood waiting, holding an elegant box tied with silk ribbon. "Nakamura Emmy-san?" At her nod, he bowed deeply and presented the box. "From Takahashi-sama. He hopes you will accept this with his compliments." Before Emmy could respond, the man was gone, leaving her holding the mysterious box while her co-workers whispered and stared. In the bathroom, away from prying eyes, Emmy opened it. Inside were two items: a pair of women's shoes, elegant, professional, clearly expensive, and exactly her size. The accompanying note was written in strong, masculine handwriting. "For your left foot, which hurts from old shoes, may your steps be lighter." R.T. Emmy's eyes filled with tears. He'd noticed. In all those nights of watching her walk to the train, he'd noticed her slight limp, the discomfort she tried to hide. This gesture was thoughtful in a way that bypassed her defenses and struck directly at her heart. The second item was an envelope containing theater tickets, 2 seats for tomorrow's afternoon showing of a children's musical that Hana had mentioned wanting to see, but that Emmy couldn't afford. The note attached simply said, "Every child deserves magic. Every mother deserves to provide it. Please accept this gift." Emmy sat on the closed toilet lid and cried quietly, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling of being seen, of having someone notice not just her struggles, but her dreams for her daughter, of kindness from an unexpected source. She should return the gifts, should maintain boundaries with this mysterious man who existed in shadows and spoke of protection. But she didn't, because tomorrow was Saturday, and Hana's face when she told her about the theater would be worth anything. Act 3, When Shadows Meet Light. The musical was enchanting. Hana sat spellbound, clutching Emmy's hand, eyes wide with wonder as performers sang and danced across the stage. In that darkened theater, watching her daughter's joy, Emmy felt a happiness so complete it ached. During intermission, while standing in line for drinks, Emmy noticed a familiar figure across the lobby. Ren stood partially hidden behind a pillar, dressed casually in dark jeans and a leather jacket, looking utterly out of place among families with children. Their eyes met, and for a moment the crowded theater faded. He didn't approach, just nodded slightly, a ghost of a smile touching his lips, then disappeared back into the crowd before Emmy could decide whether to acknowledge him. He came to see Hana's reaction, she realized. He wanted to know if his gift brought happiness. The thought should have been creepy. Instead, it felt oddly tender. That evening, after Hana had fallen asleep chattering excitedly about the show, Emmy found herself dialing the number on the black business card. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Nakamura-san. You were there today, at the theater. A pause. I wanted to ensure the tickets were adequate. They were perfect. Hana was... Emmy's voice caught. She was so happy. Thank you doesn't seem sufficient. Your happiness is sufficient. Ren's voice was quiet, intimate through the phone connection. Both of yours. The shoes fit perfectly, too. How did you know my size? I pay attention to details. That's somewhat alarming, Takahashi-san. A soft laugh, the first time she'd heard him laugh, and the sound did dangerous things to her heartbeat. I suppose it is. My apologies if I've overstepped. You have, Emmy said honestly, but I find myself grateful anyway, which makes me question my judgment. Your judgment is sound. Mine, however, is increasingly questionable. Silence stretched between them, comfortable despite the strange circumstances. Why are you doing this? Emmy asked. And please don't tell me I intrigue you. I need to understand. Ren was quiet for so long, she thought he might not answer. When he spoke, his words were careful, weighted with meaning. For 15 years, I've lived in a world of violence and control. I inherited an empire built on fear and maintained through strength. I've made decisions that keep me awake at night and done things I cannot undo. But in all those years, I never questioned my path because I believed there was honor in protecting my people, my territory, my father's legacy. He paused, and Emmy heard something that might have been a sigh. Then I saw you, walking through darkness every night with dignity and determination, fighting for your daughter's future with no weapons except your own will. And I realized that everything I'd built was shadows, while you, struggling to pay rent and working too many hours, possessed something infinitely more valuable, a life of meaning, of genuine love, of real purpose. Emmy's throat tightened. You romanticize struggle, Takahashi-san. There's nothing noble about poverty or exhaustion. No, he agreed, but there is nobility in how you face it. I cannot change your circumstances without insulting your independence. I cannot become part of your life without bringing darkness into it. But I can offer small kindnesses from a distance and hope that somewhere between your world and mine there exists a space where light and shadow can coexist. That's impossible, Emmy whispered. I know. You should stop watching me. Stop sending gifts. Let me return to being invisible. You could never be invisible. His voice was rough with emotion. But if that's what you want, I'll disappear. Say the word, Emmy-san, and you'll never hear from me again. Emmy closed her eyes, warring with herself. The sensible part of her brain screamed to say yes, to end this before it became something complicated and dangerous. But another part, the part that had felt truly seen for the first time in years, couldn't form the words. I don't know what I want, she admitted. Then may I make a suggestion? At her silence, he continued, "Tomorrow is Sunday. There's a park in Sumiyoshi, Nagai Park. The chrysanthemum garden will be beautiful now. I'll be there at 2 o'clock, sitting by the western pond. If you come, we talk as two people, nothing more. If you don't, I'll understand and respect your decision. And if I come with Hana, then I'll be honored to meet the little girl who inspires such devotion." After they hung up, Emmy sat in her small living room, staring at nothing. She should not go, should not let this mysterious, dangerous man further into her life, should protect herself and Hana from complications neither of them needed. But when Sunday afternoon arrived, she found herself dressing carefully, helping Hana into her favorite yellow dress and boarding the train towards Sumiyoshi. Nagai Park was spectacular in autumn, chrysanthemums blooming in riots of color, gold and bronze and deep purple. Families strolled along pathways, children fed ducks at the pond, and elderly couples sat on benches enjoying the mild weather. Ren sat exactly where he'd said he would be, and Emmy's breath caught seeing him in full daylight. He wore simple clothes, dark slacks and a gray sweater, but carried himself with an authority that set him apart from other park visitors. When he saw her approaching, his face transformed with a smile of such genuine warmth that Emmy's doubts momentarily quieted. "Nakamura-san." He stood and bowed slightly. Then, looking down at Hana, who was partially hidden behind her mother's legs, he crouched to her level. "And you must be Hana-chan. Your mother has told me you're an artist and a soccer player." Hana peeked out shyly. "Who are you?" "My name is Ren. I'm a friend of your mother's." "Are you Mama's boyfriend?" The blunt question, delivered with childhood innocence, made Emmy's face flame. "Hana." But Ren laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. "I'm working on it," he told Hana conspiratorially, "but your mama is very difficult to impress." "That's because she's the strongest person in the world," Hana declared loyally. "I believe you're absolutely right." Something in the way Ren looked at her daughter, with genuine interest and respect, not the condescending tone adults often used with children, made Emmy's heart do complicated things. They walked through the gardens, Hana running ahead to examine flowers while Emmy and Ren followed at a measured pace. Conversation flowed surprisingly easily, about chrysanthemums and autumn, about Hana's school and her drawings, about nothing of consequence and everything that mattered. Ren never mentioned his business or his world. Emmy didn't ask. For these afternoon hours, they existed in a pocket universe where only the present mattered. When Hana announced she was hungry, Ren suggested a small restaurant near the park. Family-friendly, he assured Emmy, not expensive or fancy. Over okonomiyaki and conversation, Emmy watched this powerful, dangerous man discuss animated movies with her daughter and felt something inside her chest crack open. "He's nice, Mama," Hana declared while Ren stepped away to pay the bill despite Emmy's protests. "Are you really going to be his girlfriend?" "It's not that simple, sweetheart." "Why not? He makes you smile. You don't smile enough." The simple wisdom of children. Hana was right. Emmy couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled without effort, without the weight of responsibility pressing down. When Ren returned, Emmy made a decision that was either brave or foolish. "Hana has homework to finish this evening, but perhaps you could walk us to the train station." The journey back was companionable, Hana chattering between them, holding Ren's hand with the easy trust of children who instinctively recognized safety. At the station, before they parted, Ren crouched again to Hana's level. "Thank you for letting me spend time with you today, Hana-chan. You're as wonderful as I imagined." "Will we see you again?" Hana asked hopefully. Ren glanced at Emmy, question clear in his eyes. "Perhaps," Emmy said carefully, "if Takahashi-san isn't too busy." "For you both," Ren said quietly. "I'm never too busy." The following weeks developed a pattern that defied logic and filled Emmy with equal parts joy and fear. Ren would appear, not every day, not intrusively, but regularly enough to become a presence in their lives. A Monday evening when he happened to be near Hana's school at pickup time, a Wednesday afternoon meeting for coffee while Hana was at soccer practice, a Saturday morning when they discovered Ren waiting outside their apartment building with fresh pastries and the morning newspaper. He was careful, Emmy noticed, never pushy, never demanding, always leaving space for her to accept or decline, always treating Hana with gentle respect that made the little girl adore him. And slowly, carefully, Emmy found herself falling for this complicated man who existed between two worlds. Koji, Ren's ever-present lieutenant, became a familiar fixture, always hovering at a respectful distance, always vigilant. Once Emmy asked Ren about him. "Koji has been with me since we were teenagers," Ren explained. "He's my brother in all ways that matter. When my father died and I took over, Koji ensured I survived both external enemies and internal doubts. I trust him with my life." "Does he approve of us?" Ren smiled. "He thinks I'm being reckless and sentimental. He's probably right." "Then why continue?" Ren reached across the cafe table and took her hand, the first time he'd initiated such direct contact. His palm was warm, calloused, strong. "Because for the first time in 15 years, I wake up thinking about something other than territory and tributes. Because Hana-chan's laugh is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Because when you smile at me, really smile, I remember that I'm not just the head of the Takahashi Gumi. I'm a man capable of feeling things I thought were lost to me." Emmy turned her hand over, intertwining their fingers. "I'm scared. So am I. Your world and mine are incompatible," he finished. "I know, but perhaps there's a way to build a bridge." It was a beautiful thought. Emmy wanted desperately to believe it. Reality, however, had other plans. The threat came on a Thursday evening. Koji arrived within 20 minutes, bringing with him two other men who moved with the controlled efficiency of trained protectors. The drive to Emmy's apartment was tense, every shadow seeming to hide threats. But when they arrived, Mrs. Yoshida and Hana were safe inside, unaware of any danger. Emmy held her daughter tightly, breathing in her innocent scent of children's shampoo and candy. "Mama, you're home early!" Hana was delighted. "And Koji-san is here. Is Ren coming too?" "Not tonight, sweetheart, but soon." After putting Hana to bed, Emmy sat with Koji in her small living room. The Yakuza lieutenant looked comically out of place on her worn sofa, but his presence was oddly comforting. "Boss has men surrounding the building," Koji told her quietly. "Tomorrow, the Yamada-kai will learn what happens when they threaten Takahashi Ren's people. This will be over quickly." "I don't want violence," Emmy said, "especially not on my behalf." Koji's expression softened slightly. "In our world, sometimes violence is unavoidable, but Boss is smart. He'll handle this with minimal bloodshed. The Yamada-kai overreached, and they'll pay for it, but through loss of face and territory, not necessarily lives." "You've known him a long time," Emmy said. Is he a good man, despite everything?" Koji considered the question seriously. "Boss is the best man I've ever known. Honorable, protective, fair. He could have ruled through fear like his father, but he chose a different path. That path is still dark, don't misunderstand. But there's light in him too. You and Hana-chan are bringing that light forward. Please don't give up on him because of this." "I won't," Emmy promised. "But I need to understand his world better. No more secrets." "That's between you and Boss," Koji said. "But I think he'll agree. He's wanted to be honest with you from the beginning." Ren arrived at dawn, looking exhausted but relieved. Koji discreetly left them alone in Emmy's living room as the sun rose over Osaka. "It's over," Ren said without preamble. "The Yamada-kai has withdrawn their threat and apologized. They've also ceded the port district. You and Hana are safe." "What did you do?" Ren met her eyes steadily. I reminded them that honor exists even in our world, that threatening innocent women and children is a line that, once crossed, earns consequences. I presented evidence of their recent drug trafficking, something my family refuses to participate in, to the elder Yakuza councils. The Yamada Kai lost face and territory. They won't trouble us again. Emmy absorbed this. You did all that overnight? I made calls, applied pressure. I have influence, Emmy, and I used every bit of it to protect you both. He looked down at his hands. You deserve to know everything. The Takahashi Gumi is one of the largest Yakuza organizations in Kansai. We control territory, collect tributes, handle disputes, and exist in shadows that most people never see. I'm not a good man by conventional standards, but I try to be better than my father. I try to protect more than I punish. I try to find honor in a world that often has none. I know what Yakuza means, Emmy said quietly. And I've known, on some level, since that first night. You carry yourself with too much authority to be anything else. Ren looked up, surprised. And yet you let me into your life anyway? Because I saw past the position to the person. Because you noticed my left foot hurt from old shoes. Because you made my daughter laugh. Emmy reached for his hand. I'm not naive, Ren. I understand your world is dangerous. Last night proved that. But I also understand that you've tried to protect us from it. And when that failed, you handled it without violence against innocent people. That means something. It means I'm falling in love with you, Ren said bluntly. Both of you. And that terrifies me because everyone I love becomes a target. Emmy's breath caught at the open declaration. Then we become smarter, more careful, but we don't let fear win. You could walk away, find a normal man with a normal life, give Hana a father who doesn't carry the weight of the underworld. I could, Emmy agreed, but I don't want normal. I want you, complicated, protective, surprisingly gentle you. Ren closed his eyes, and when he opened them, they shone with emotion. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Emmy said with a small smile, but you're stuck with me anyway. He pulled her into his arms then, holding her tightly against his chest while his heart beat strong and steady beneath her ear. They stayed like that as sunrise painted her small apartment in shades of gold, two people from impossible worlds finding unexpected refuge in each other. From the bedroom, Hana's sleepy voice called out, Mama, is Ren here? They separated, both smiling. That's my cue, Ren said. Stay for breakfast, Emmy offered. It won't be fancy, but I'd be honored. Epilogue, light and shadow entwined. 6 months later, Emmy stood in the kitchen of a new apartment. Not ostentatiously large, but comfortable, in a safer neighborhood with good schools and a park nearby. The rent was paid through Ren's company, one of his legitimate businesses. She'd initially protested, but he'd explained it simply. Let me provide safety and stability. Your independence and work aren't diminished. You're still supporting Hana and yourself. This is just a foundation to build on. She'd kept her job, though she'd negotiated better hours and a promotion after completing a major project. Life was still busy, still challenging, but the edge of desperation had dulled. Hana burst through the door from the balcony where Ren had been teaching her soccer tricks, both laughing. Mama, did you see I can do a bicycle kick now? I saw. Very impressive. Ren followed more slowly, meeting Emmy's eyes with a look of such contentment it made her heart ache. He came to her as naturally as breathing now, wrapping his arms around her from behind as she chopped vegetables, pressing a kiss to her temple. Koji called. The meeting went well. The territory is stable. Good, Emmy said, not asking for details she didn't need. They'd established boundaries. She knew the broad strokes of his business, enough to understand risks and make informed decisions, but not so much that she became complicit or endangered. It was a delicate balance, but they were learning. Mrs. Yoshida invited us for dinner next week, Emmy continued. She wants to show you her husband's old war medals. Ren laughed. "She's determined to adopt me." "Can you blame her? You fixed her broken heater and helped her grandson find a job. The boy needed work. I needed reliable people. It was practical." Very cold and practical of you." They moved around the kitchen in comfortable synchronicity, preparing dinner while Hana drew at the table, already filling their home with colorful artwork that Ren displayed as proudly as if they hung in galleries. Later, after Hana was asleep and they sat together on the balcony watching the city lights, Ren spoke quietly. "I've been thinking about stepping back. Koji has proven himself capable of handling day-to-day operations. I'd remain the formal head, but I want more time. With you, with Hana." Emmy turned to look at him, surprised. "Is that possible?" "In my world, anything is possible if you're strong enough to claim it. And you, Emmy-san, have made me want to claim something I never thought I'd have. A life that exists in light as much as shadow." "That's quite poetic for a Yakuza boss," she teased gently. "I contain multitudes," he said seriously. Then, with a slight smile, "Also, I've been reading poetry. You left that anthology on the coffee table." Emmy laughed, the sound carrying into the night. Below them, Osaka hummed with life. Businessmen heading home, families eating dinner, couples walking hand in hand. An ordinary city filled with extraordinary stories. Theirs was just one among millions. A junior accountant and a Yakuza boss, a single mother and a man who'd lived in shadows, a relationship that shouldn't work but somehow did. Built on unexpected kindness, protected by fierce devotion, sustained by the daily choice to bridge two different worlds. "I love you," Emmy said simply, "in case I haven't mentioned it today." "You have," Ren said, "but I'll never tire of hearing it." He pulled her closer. "I love you too, both of you, my light in the darkness." "Technically, we're still pretty dark," Emmy pointed out, "given your job description." "Fine. My slightly brighter shadow in the overall darkness? Better." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and small joys in equal measure, knowing that they'd face them together, imperfect, complicated, but undeniably real. Somewhere in the apartment, Hana's breathing was soft and even, dreaming whatever 6-year-olds dream of. Probably soccer and yellow sunflowers and the family she'd somehow gained. A mother who loved her fiercely, and a man who'd stepped out of shadows to become something she simply called Ren Papa when she thought no one was listening. Emmy had never believed in fairy tales. Life had taught her that happiness was earned through struggle, that safety was an illusion, that single mothers had to be strong enough for 2 parents. But sitting here with Ren's arm around her shoulders, looking at a future that held possibility instead of just survival, she thought maybe fairy tales existed after all. They just looked different than expected. Less about princes and castles, more about laptop deliveries at midnight and someone noticing your left foot hurt. Sometimes the boss of the shadows delivered more than forgotten laptops. Sometimes he delivered hope, protection, and love wrapped in unexpected packages. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, you let him in. The city lights glittered like scattered diamonds, and Emmy smiled, content in this moment that had seemed impossible 6 months ago. Her daughter was safe. Her heart was full, and somewhere between light and shadow, she'd found a home.